Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train Your Dragon podcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me are...
Rush 2112.
And Wolf.
And today, we kind of had a realization suddenly that around this time, I'm not sure about the exact date, if one of you can actually Google this right now, this is really unprofessional, but what can you do? Around this time, in August of 2012, Hiccup and Toothless officially made their way to the small screen in DreamWorks Dragons, Riders of Berk. The show has then gone through 8 seasons, 2 channels, Cartoon Network and Netflix, 2 title changes with Defenders of Berk and Race to the Edge, and over 100 episodes. You know the show, we know the show, we talked all about it here on the Berkcast. We went through all of it. So what could we possibly do more with this show? Well, now that all the seasons are out, we've seen all the episodes and everything had a bit of time to stew because actually it's been six months since the last season. Can you guys believe it? Time flies.
Wow. And we're only doing this episode now.
Yeah. Well, it fits with the anniversary of the show. You know, it kind of sucks that it's not the 5th anniversary, it's the 6th, but hey, what can you do? Sometimes, yeah, just sometimes. Anyway, so to celebrate
That was
this
going
occasion,
somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Into the ground, like this show.
I had a point and I lost it. Oh well. Anyway, so today we are counting down our top 10 favorite DreamWorks Dragons episodes. So before we actually get to the list...
Oh, this is the top 10 favorites. I just picked out 10 episodes at random.
Well...
Oh, you said all 8 seasons. I just did Race to the Edge.
Oh, God.
Don't worry. I had that revelation when I started making the list 5 minutes ago. No, but I realized it last time.
I will admit, most of my list is Race to the Edge.
Well, yeah, it makes most of the episodes, but you know something. I love how you said you had a revelation when it's literally the first rule in the script. Like, this is the first rule I put in there just to...
I just usually look at what the top of it is, and then I just kind of glance over the rules.
Mm-hmm.
No, I read it through because I do remember I accidentally did misread one time. Not considering something, it was probably a recent script too, but I remembered I read through it as I was going, and so I got everything covered.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a few basic rules to get the people at home up to speed. So one, we can choose episodes from all 8 seasons. So it's not just Race to the Edge, it's Riders of Berk, Defenders of Berk. The only thing that doesn't really count is Dawn of the Dragon Races, which is technically a short film, technically. So you won't be seeing this one here. Second rule and second and third rules are 2-parter episode could count as one choice. So let's say if Rush chooses Night of the Hunters, he chooses both episodes as one pick. And on that note, if let's say Wolf decided to choose Maces and Talons, he has to choose both parts, and like part 1 can be number 2, for example, and part 2 can be number 3. If you choose a 2-parter, it's both parts taking one spot. The reason for this is because, you know, it gives the standalone episodes more of a fighting chance here. There will be honorable mentions, so don't worry if one of your favorite episodes is not necessarily on here. And speaking of which, this is a personal favorite episode list, so keep in mind that if your favorite is not on the list, it doesn't necessarily mean we think it's bad, or it doesn't mean that we say you're wrong or anything. No, it just means we didn't like it as much as our picks. And keep in mind that we are 3 people, so that means 30 episodes are going to be mentioned, and you know the show has over 100 episodes, so you can't expect us to see every episode here.
Yeah.
That's
We just need 7 more people and we're good.
Mm-hmm. And I was also going to say, don't take that if we choose, say, one of your favorite episodes as our number 7, meaning that, like, we don't like it.
The list is in no particular order.
Yeah. Well, I tried to put mine in order, but it's really hard to.
My list is in no particular order.
And 2, it just means that, like, even though there are people have argued, like, about several seasons, that doesn't mean that there aren't 10 episodes in the whole series that are just so good that, you could just say they're all equal. So,
like, I'll tell you this much: I have a honorable mention from each season. Just putting this out there.
Fair enough.
And I might as well just say that my way of approaching this list is that it's more of a meeting, so don't take this as something against any of the seasons or any of the episodes. I have this thing that I tried to like have one episode from each season, and seeing how there are 10 spots and 8 seasons, most of this list is going to juggle around the seasons. 2 seasons are getting 2 episodes. If you listen to our reviews, you can probably tell which ones. But just keep in mind that my list is pretty much 1 episode per season. And just because of that, it doesn't mean that I chose something for the sake of the rule, or chose something just like, if I chose an episode, that means I do really like it and I like what it brought to the table. So that's kind of my approach to this list. What about you guys?
I see episode I like and I say that goes on the list.
Yeah.
As I said before, mine are picked out at random.
Random number.
No favorites.
Which episode should I choose? 62. Okay, I'll choose that.
Yeah, I can just see Wolf having like a bingo on the wall, and it throws darts on it. Like, it hit on an episode. Yeah, sure, I'll pick this one. And
that's exactly what I did. I had a dartboard. Every piece of the dartboard was an episode, and went from there. And I'm gonna pretend like I really like that episode.
Okay. One more small thing is that we can, if you remember when we did the top 7, how to change the top 7 favorite moments from the franchise, we kind of did like a guessing game before the episode of what we think will be each other's number 1, and you predicted my number 1 for obvious reasons. So can you guess what episode I put as my number 1 this time?
Oh God, there's so much. Can you at least tell us if it was Race to the Edge or not Race to the Edge, or you're not going to give any hints?
It was Race to the Edge.
It's Race to the Edge.
Okay. I wasn't going to say season, because if you told us which season it would have been, then it's
like, that
would be a bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No NHC.
Brought to you by.
My guess would be Blindsided.
And I wouldn't say that. HC's not the Hickstred shipper like I am. Not that one is my favorite.
I do like the episode though. Not saying if it's on the list or not.
Searching for Oswald and Chicken.
Both interesting choices.
Let's see.
No. Each one of you had your guess. If for so long, you'll know when we get there. So let's not waste any more time and get this party started. So the way this goes. What did you say?
Nothing. I had my guess. Remember, we'll see. If the audience heard me, great. If they didn't, oh well.
Okay, so here's the thing. So each one of us says, like, when we say number 10, each one says his pick for number 10, and then we start explaining our reasons. So with that said, this is the best.
10 up.
Yeah, 10 up.
Okay.
No. What list goes from up down? Like
I've seen plenty of lists that go from 1
on a scale of 1 to 10. How hurt are you?
0. Anyway, So let's do this thing. So this is the Berkcast top 10 favorite DreamWorks Dragons episode. So should the order be Wolf or any other order?
I don't care.
Okay, so let's go with this. Anyway, Rush, you have the deepest voice out. You do the numbers. So number 10.
Number 10.
Okay, number 10 for me. A Matter of Perspective. Race to the Edge 5.
Number 10 for me is The Longest Day. Race to the Edge.
And number 10 for me was Race to the Edge Season 5, Episode 8 and 9, The Wings of War in Parts 1 and 2.
Okay, so A Matter of Perspective. I guess you could say this is a matter of perspective because those who listen to previous episodes, especially our review of Race to the Edge 5, know that I personally found the overall season to be a bit underwhelming. I won't go over everything that I said in the review. You can look it up. But to paraphrase, I just thought that in terms of the overall story of the show, nothing of substance really happened. Some stuff of substance happened. I'm not saying like Johan and everything, but nothing was really all that big. Let's say it like this. And then this like building up the world and actually finding out something else within this universe. And this episode actually did this for me. I like the idea of, we saw dragons getting killed before in this franchise, but they were killed, murdered. We don't really know what happens when a dragon just reached an old age, and this episode kind of touched upon it, which I really like. And we saw a dragon in his final days going to for all intents and purposes, the dragon graveyard, and this is a place no one really thought of, as far as I'm aware, before this episode. And seeing something like this was a bit creepy, but yet cool at the same time. And the dragons that protect the island, I also really like that. I like the idea that they're blind and they are using their hearing and it was hearing and their other senses in order to track down intruders or people trying to leave the island. So that episode just gave me a lot of stuff I like. New dragons and new place and new mythology. I could get lore, probably a lore behind this and everything. So I just thought it was a great episode. That's my number 10.
Okay.
Should we mention honorable mentions when someone picks one of ours out?
Let's wait with the mentions until all the favorites are done, or maybe before number one.
Great.
It will probably happen.
No, HC, he's saying, like, if, say, that was one of Wolf's honorable mentions, he would say that was my honorable mention that you just noted.
Oh, okay.
Like that, right,
Okay,
Wolf?
so you know what?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and say that. I'm not sure to follow the rule because...
Technically, you might already know what the honorable mention is, but I can wait.
I was just going to say, I did think of including that one, but I went a different route when choosing mine. I chose ones that I did a mix of what made me laugh, what I actually enjoyed watching, and something you'll figure out later, which you probably already know. But that one definitely would have been up there if I had done like everything serious from like just a super. If I rewatch every single episode like 3 times just to get a good idea, because that one definitely sticks out and I remember it pretty well. But The Longest Day, I chose this one at number 10 because, like I said, I chose ones that made me laugh. This one I did find funny just for the characters, how they reacted to staying up. Even Hiccup, who starts to lose it towards the end. Then we get just Hiccup and Toothless on their own on the island. That was another thing I looked for. Just, what defines a good episode and whatnot. Is just the characters and their interactions with the dragons and others. And so, a Hiccup and Toothless centric episode for me at number 10. Plus, who can forget Astrid wanted to talk about feelings?
Oh, yeah.
That was a close one for me, too, in terms of things I found enjoyable to watch and that were fun to watch and just funny and made me laugh. That was a really close one. Very close to being on the list and then got knocked off the list when I started thinking about great character moments, which is what The Wings of War Parts 1 and 2 had, especially for Hiccup regarding his willingness to fight and hurt the Singe-Tails. Just some great character development for Hiccup there, in my opinion. And one of the things I'll point to and say that for those who say Race to the Edge Season 5 and Season 6 are out there a little bit in terms of what they do and just kind of how they go, I think this is one of those episodes from Race to the Edge Season 5 that I'll point to and say, this is what made Season 5 worth it for me, is something like this and just the development that comes from it for Hiccup. Just a really good episode overall.
Okay, already and it's out of the list. So, shall we move on to number 9?
Number 9.
Frozen, Defenders of Berk. And no, this has nothing to do.
I think you chose that episode just to do that.
No, honestly, no. And I'll get to my reasons later.
Damn episode comes up, you make that stupid joke.
Says you, first person who made a joke.
You were doing it first. You were gonna do it, but I stole it from you like I normally do.
Well, you still did it first, so don't blame me.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, number 9, Defenders of Berk. Rush, go.
Number 9 for me is Enemy of My Enemy, Season 3, Race to the Edge.
And mine was Race to the Edge Season 6, Episode 8, Triple Cross.
Okay, so I think I be the first one to actually explain myself here because there will be no false accusations. So, here's the thing. By the time, if I remember this correctly, by the time this episode aired, there weren't many Hiccup and Toothless solo adventures in the show. Like the only thing that comes to mind is like the first like in the first season finale, like part 1 was a bit like that, but other than that, really nothing. So this in a sense closest to a Hiccup and Toothless solo adventure, at least at the start of it, which I really like. And I like them going out and then coming back and kind of having that horror suspense feeling in a sense that they go back to work and nobody's there, like no one's there, no one can help them. And then we find the Singe-Tails, which are a cool. We see more of Hiccup and Toothless working together, like that shield combo that Hiccup throws the shield and then Toothless throws it right back at him. That's a cool combo. Like great action scenes also. And the one thing that really raised that episode to the top for me is that up until that point in the show, Hiccup really treated, in the franchise I should say, because Gifts of the Night Furies kind of pointed this out as well, that Hiccup just seems to be frustrated or traumatized by the metal leg, which understandable, don't just brush off a leg you lost. But in this episode, we also kind of benefits him when the Singe-Tails try to stab him and it doesn't work because they got the medal, and he actually has a little triumphant moment of, yeah, didn't expect that, didn't you? So I also like that. So it was a fun episode for me. Not enough to make it to top 5, but it's definitely worth a mention. So that's why I chose this episode.
Okay, fair enough. And yes, this was also in contention, one that I specifically focused on when going through the list. Sorry, Frozen was. So for me, Enemy of My Enemy. This one I chose because this was a very good start for Dagger, showing that Dagger has turned to the light side. We get the initial where he's trying to, leave without anybody noticing, and he does. He doesn't leave without anybody noticing. Astrid catches him, but then Hiccup goes, gets caught, and then part of the the Gronkle iron armor falls off, and so Toothless gets shot with an arrow. And then this was one of the very first episodes that they actually show a wound, and it was Toothless's arrow wound, and that was I thought that was pretty interesting because that one stuck with me. Not like it's I was horrified because there are many shows that aren't kids shows that can show you much worse things, but I thought it was really bold and brave of them to
Race
do that.
to the Edge it's hard for them to get tension really well since you kind of know where things are going to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so this happening was very, very good move, in my opinion, on DreamWorks' part. And so that alone put this episode just in contention to be on this list. And then we get the whole Dagger actually saving Hiccup and doing all this stuff. And just Dagger, his dialogue in this is so great. And it's so funny, too, because he's just talking and then he just adds a random laugh in there. And then we even get Hiccup, going berserk on Dagger after he thinks he killed Toothless with the, was it purple oleander? We also have Dagger getting shot with an arrow too, so more arrow injuries. All in all, this episode was, I think, just a step up from what DreamWorks normally does in terms of the content, the mature content, I'd say. It's obviously not the worst that it could have been, but it was definitely a step in the more mature direction, which I approve of.
Okay. Whoa.
Talking about people getting shot with arrows, Vigo got shot with multiple arrows.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
and
yeah,
he took it like a man.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I picked this episode simply because this is Vigo's Out, and I don't think anyone would disagree when I say it's Vigo's Out done really well. Even if I said way back when I would have liked to have seen the show do something a bit different with Vigo's Out, I can't say I hated this. I have to say I actually really enjoyed it, and it was really well done. And it was just some damn good villain work from Vigo, and you have to give praise to that. Simply put.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good choices. I have to say that so far, if I may tease a little bit, both of Russia's picks are on my list, and one of Wolf's is on my list.
I wonder which one that is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, considering, that the rules, but let's keep going and see where this goes. So, number 8. Imperfect Harmony.
Blindsided.
Race to the Edge Season 6, Episode 3, Chain of Command, for me.
Okay, so Imperfect Harmony. Kind of in a sort of a weird sequel-ish way to that real-life events episode we did not too long ago. This episode did just kind of came to me at the right spot, I guess you could say, because when Race to the Edge came out, everyone compared it to that this is the showing these characters going to college, in a sense, and going stuff. And this episode was June of 2015, so this was at the time when I just got word that I got accepted to my college. Happiest and in retrospect the saddest day of my life, but so not only did it came to me at the right spot, but I also liked how it was handled. They found this thing that they named the Dragon Eye. Good, not that good of a name, Hiccup, looking back. and he's excited to explore more of the world. He wants to see more of it, and in order to do that, he needs to move away from Berk. So not only that they presented this thing that does happen, it was also represented with a pretty good excuse to back it up, which I appreciate. It's not just I don't want to be on Berk anymore. Okay, sure, go. And Stoic's conversation of with Hiccup on why he lets him go and do this it also felt really realistic. But that's one part of it. The other part, the Dead Song is a really cool dragon. I love it. I like his design. I like the way I like its fire. That it basically traps people in their place and not the Dead Song. And I just like Hiccup's kind of character moment here, that he realizes that he put his friends in danger and he needs to work with the Thunderdrome, which is a dragon he doesn't necessarily know like he knows Toothless, in order to save them. And of course, my favorite joke regarding Hiccup's leg ever, where Toothless grabs him, starts running, and only then realizes that he took only the leg and the rest of Hiccup was left with the rider. So that was all enough to gain this episode a spot on my list.
For me, Blindsided, was finally happened. That didn't make sense. It finally happened. Pictured, hooray. I had to include one, but I didn't just keep it at one. But don't worry, it's only two.
And hey, it's a good episode regardless. So
Yeah, honestly, after this, there are 2 episodes I could have chosen from, but this one was probably the best of them. Let's just put it this way. So, like, Miyamori Wing, like, that one's good for Hickstrid, but the story is kind of weak. Hey, we got a good meme out of it, at least. And then Sandbusted, the Betrothal. That one's interesting. The Sandbuster is a very interesting dragon, shoots glass. It's fire, heats the sand around it and creates glass, but...
Rush, it kind of goes on mentions, but, whatever.
I know, I'm just saying why I chose Blindsided over these 2.
Okay.
And so...
Okay.
But that one's interesting, and you have the Betrothal and all that, but it's... Again, the story isn't as good as the Blindsided, which gives you an interesting perspective on how it all began. So that's just why I was just saying which one was the best of the 3, why I chose this one over those 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wolf.
Mine. Well, I mean, simply put, it has some great Snotlout development. Whether we've seen that development before, it's still good to see again, because Snotlout's a great character to have, and he's always fun and enjoyable to watch and see and listen to. And on top of that, we just get to see more of the Wing Maidens, and that's a group that I really enjoyed the idea of, at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So moving on.
Number 7.
Midnight Scrum, Race to the Edge 4.
Wolf, mine is Chain of Command, Season 6, Episode 3.
You got confused there for a second, didn't you?
Wait, why?
You said Wolf.
I know, because you just did Chain of Command.
Oh, okay. I get you. I didn't pay attention to your episode name. Well, going from one episode of The Wing Maidens to another episode of The Wing Maidens, mine is Race to the Edge Season 5, Episode 4, Snotlout's Angels.
Okay, so Midnight Scrum. Talk about an episode that starts with a bang and doesn't really slow down at any moment. So first of all, I do like the basic premise of it's Vigo, Punin, and Bauer said, which means by that time Vigo is not playing anymore. He notices that Hiccup is a threat to him, and he finds a way to probably get rid of him. So he goes with it. This is not a game anymore. tried having fun with this guy. I tried talking with this guy. Doesn't work. I need him out because he's hurting my business. And so, like, we start right off with Hiccup just being chased by all of these people. And then they continue to chase him around, and everyone is looking for him, trying to save him. And we also get a bit of a cameo from Wolf's favorite character, Savage. And we also get introduced, really not necessarily for the first time, but this is the first time we really see him in action. We are introduced to Krogan, who later proved to be a great villain, and also a fantastic action sequences, actually. What more can I say? It's just an episode that has a bit of everything, and I love it.
Nice. So for mine, I chose Chain of Command. I mean, Wolf kind of already went over everything. It was extremely great for Snotlout. And I'll consistently argue this, that Snotlout is one of the best written characters in all of the DreamWorks Dragons series. He always pretty much is written well. They know how they want to write him. They know where they want to go with him. And there are few and far between moments where it just doesn't seem like it's a Snotlout. Like, it doesn't seem like it's out of character for him. Or it does seem like it's out of character a few moments. And this is just one where you get great... I guess the reason why, you could say, is because Snotlout has a lot of character to develop, so they can really just take him in the he needs to be better direction, and when he has these moments, they do it in his way. It's not like Hiccup learning, it's like, oh, I figured out a way to do this. It's not saying, hey, I suck, I know it, and I'm just trying to be better, and so here's how I'm going to do it, and he does it. And this is just one of those moments where he knows he's bad, he tries to be good, and he does it.
I'm bad, and that's good. Bad. There's no one I would rather be than me.
Mm-hmm. So.
I guess me up then.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I like Snotlout. I chose Snotlout's Angels at number 7 because, as I said earlier, I like the idea of the Wing Maidens, and I'm always a sucker for interesting world building, and I think the Wing Maidens are that. I also really enjoy Atali's character as well, so there you have it. World building episode. I enjoy it. So it goes on the list.
Actually, we never did Snotlout said to us within this episode, so point for mystery, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on to
number 6.
What Flies Beneath? Riders of Berk.
Guardians of Vanaheim, Season 6, Episode 11.
And for me, Race to the Edge, Season 3, Episode 9, Tone Deaf.
I found this ironic that I'm the one who chose a Riders of Berk episode before Wolf did, but what can you do?
Wait for it.
So, yeah, I know. I know it's coming. I think I know which one as well, but let's see. Anyway, so what flies? I want to believe that this has nothing to do with the fact that I'm writing one of my essays this year about How to Train a Dragon, and I use this specific episode as an example to what I'm bringing to the point I'm trying to bring up. But yeah, putting that aside, this is a great episode, and again, I think this was the first time in the show where they really dove into Hiccup and Toothless's relationship, and because again, prior to this, I don't necessarily recall Toothless having many character moments or having plots, having plots centered on him. And here we actually get something really interesting, which is what he did before he met Hiccup, before the events of the movie took place. And again, the Hidden World is probably going to do something with this as well, from what we know so far. But to this day, this was really our first and only glimpse on what was Toothless like before he met Hiccup. And also, I do like that. One of my major criticisms in season one in Riders of Berk, because Wolf probably hates me for, is the fact that most of the problems seem to come from the fact that Mildew has a problem with dragons being accepted in Berk, and here it's not necessarily just an old guy trying to say the old ways are better. There is a legitimate risk, and in some way, Tutas puts Hiccup. Tutas tries to keep Hiccup away from the risk, even though he needs Hiccup to, because without Hiccup he can fly, and in a sense, Hiccup caused this. So there's a great conflict all around with this episode that reaches a satisfying conclusion, and I do like it. So yeah, just a great character moment episode for both Hiccup and Toothless. How can you go wrong?
Fair enough. Is that all?
Yeah, that's all. Okay. Go ahead.
So
I'm done.
Guardians of Anaheim. So this one I chose because it's actually for season 6, it just kept building up towards the end, and this was probably, I think that this was actually better than the ending itself, because we get so Soic is still unconscious, and technically he does wake up for a moment, but excuse me. This is where we get Hiccup going to Vanaheim to investigate what's going on with Heather. So we see that they capture a writer and they interrogate him, which by itself is still pretty funny because of the twins. And then we just get this whole episode of everything going on, building up. So it's a lot of plot driven, and it's just a lot going on, but I really like it when there's a lot going on that's fit well together. Take Infinity War Part 1. There's just so much going on, so many different arcs of the stories that are all going on, but they work well together.
There is so much movie in, as honest put it.
And granted, it is a long movie, but it's still, they do it well. And that's kind of what I like it. They're trying to build up to the King of Dragons, the next episode, and it's just a whole bunch of parts just going back and forth, but it's going really well, which is kind of why, I may not have good moments from this episode, but that's kind of what I like, just how they do it all well together. And that's just actually why I chose it.
Okay. Fair enough. And an interesting choice. Wolf, you up.
It's tone deaf. I could just say singing episode and leave it at that, but it's not just singing episode. It's also has the death song, which is probably my favorite design as far as dragons go from the show. Just a beautifully designed and looking dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you get to see and you get to hear Mae Whitman sing, which is always a pleasure.
Yep, agreed. So
it's on the list.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So moving on to number 5.
Number 5.
Snow Way Out, Race to the Edge 2, and that's really how it's called. You can't blame me for a pun.
Mine is...
No one can blame you for choosing it.
Yeah, always. Just like I blamed you for choosing
Frozen. You can. Well, I have a reason up, so no, you can't.
You've had 2 weeks to think of a reason. To make up a reason, sorry.
Yeah, I have plenty of reasons to make it up. Anyway, go.
Mine is Defiant One. Defenders of Berk, episode 16.
And mine is Race to the Edge, season 2, episode 12 and 13, Maces and Talons, part 1 and 2.
Okay, so Snow Way Out. Here's the thing. You remember those days at school, and then before Netflix was a thing, and you came home, you were dead tired, and then the show you used to watch at the afternoon suddenly drops one hell of a episode at you that contains a lot, and you're just getting sucked in that you forget about your day at school. This was that kind of for me, because think about all the stuff that happened in it. Like, we found out that Heather is a double spy. We found out that Astrid has been keeping this information from Hiccup. The riders and the hunters are literally under each other's noses as they're looking through the snowy mountain. You can again, great sequences. Kind of an open-ended ending, making you think where this all goes next, and also like a bit of a negotiation between Cup and Riker, which up to this point wasn't something we really saw. Riders fighting the hunters, but we didn't really see them actually just try and talk it out. And so this was just a packed episode, and it had a lot of good stuff in it. And for a season that relied a lot on two-parters, I'm really surprised that they managed to cram all of this into 22 minutes and not something. So so not only a great episode, but it also gave me kind of warm nostalgia feeling in a sense when I watched it. So what's not to like?
The whole episode, that's what's not to like. I'm just kidding.
True.
You asked the question, I had to answer.
Yeah. No, you didn't have to. You could have just
as Tough Nut says, it was a rhetorical question. So, Defiant One, I could go on the long spiel that we always go when talking about this, but basically, Hiccup, Snotlout working together. And again, going back on another thing, it's the pair that's always written the best together. We go from Snotlout being the best written to the pair that's always best written. Snotlout and Hiccup are always written so well together. We get a great character.
Hickstrid shipper isn't going to say Hickstrid is the best written pair.
In fanfics it is, but they really didn't want to. They didn't really do too much for Hickstrid for me to, to praise it as much.
Fair.
Taking a shot at you, DreamWorks. No. So anyway, and then we get one of Wolf's favorite lines. It's not the leg; it's everything attached to it. If you really want to hear all of our fanboying rants about it, you can go back and look at the episode where we did Defenders of Berk, because we talked about this one a lot.
Yeah.
So, Wolf, what's yours again?
Mine was Maces and Talons Part 1 and 2. And, I mean, this is our introduction to Vigo, and I don't think anyone will say this was a bad introduction. The show's always been good at nailing new villain intros. From whether you like it or not, Mildew's intro was pretty good and worked for the character, as did Alvin's, as did Dagger's, as did Riker's. And Vigo's is no exception, and probably even tops that list of villain introductions. So, just an overall good episode. And you also get some development between Dagger and Heather, too.
Mm-hmm.
And you finally get to see Hiccup be beaten for once. Just some overall really good stuff here. Cannot argue with a good episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also want to say that me pointing out as in the rules as an example that Wolf can choose Maces and Talons Part 1 and 2 as one episode, but not. Mm-hmm. That was a complete coincidence. I didn't know that he's actually going to pick it.
That's why I said.
It's a good.
No, you said Night of the Hunters.
No, he said Maces and Talons.
Oh, okay.
He said Night of the Hunters for you, but he said Maces and Talons for when he gave me as an example.
Yeah. So completely coincidental, but hey, it's a good episode. So great pick on that. So are we ready to number 4?
Number 4.
Enemy of my end, based on the edge.
Buffalo Soldier, Raise the Edge Season 3, Episode 5.
And number 4 for me is Race to the Edge Season 1, Episode 10 and 11, Have Dragon Will Travel, Parts 1 and 2.
So Wolf is the one that picks all the two-parters. But
Not all, but quite a few.
Yeah. But anyway, so Rush kind of went over before, but so I won't go too much over it. But I do like it for a lot of other reasons than what Rush stated. So I'll try not be a repeat here. So first of all, it is kind of fitting how this is an episode of talents, and Wolf just talked about it. So yeah, going into this, keeping this in mind, Maces and Talents, like Wolf just said, ended with a lot of, in a very unexpected way. Like, Hiccup lost, Vigo has the Dragon Eye, like, Dagger pretty much turned on the Hunters and saved Heather. So there was also the Night Fury thing, but the show kind of forgot about it, so I'm going to forget about it as well for the time being. So there were other questions, and we were with these questions for 5 months. We wanted to see what was going to happen afterwards, and boy, did this episode deliver on like a good start, on a good continuation to the two-parter. I'll even say it did its job too well, because it kind of overshadowed the rest of the season, in my opinion. But hey, a good start is a good start. So first of all, I do like that throughout this entire episode, we see another side of Hiccup. Like, for the first time ever since he met Toothless, he's been defeated. Like, someone beat him at his own game. So he's pretty much at his lowest at this point. And at his lowest, he pretty much succumbed to his biggest, to the biggest change, and he decides to go alone with Toothless to look for the Hunters and retrieve the Dragon Eye, something that Astrid even calls him out on at the beginning. And as he goes along with it, he comes across a reformed Dagger, but he is hesitant to trust him, but at the other end, he doesn't really have much of a choice, as Toothless is down and can fly back. So he has to trust Dagger even if he doesn't want to. And the interaction with those two is brilliant, and I love it. Like, if you told me to write an episode where Dagger become friends after everything they've been through, I would probably do it in the same way. And also, and again, continuing Hiccup just having a different side to him, I think I still stand by my word that this is the angriest we've ever seen Hiccup in any piece of the franchise. And again, at the moment that happens, like, it just hits you that what he's losing, what he's fighting for, and at the end, seeing Dagger riding Toothless and actually gains both Toothless's and Hiccup's trust is just a great character moment and development for him. So just a lot of great stuff in this episode, and just a strong start after the last season's finale. So definitely as a worthy addition, in my opinion.
All right.
Well, so much for using what I used and just saying, yeah, that's about it, and then going to the next person, which is pretty much what Wolf and I are doing. It's like, yeah, you already covered everything. Next.
Well, sorry, I guess.
No, I'm just saying it's difference of
He's
people. It's all.
He's got to try and one up us.
That's
true.
How it goes. I bet you he has Defiant one, and he's just going to repeat everything we said in the episode that we did it over, pretty much.
Well, something, considering Defenders of Berk Choice was way down on this list, then no, I can't have it.
Why can't you?
That means nothing.
Yeah. I'm sorry, HC. Was that in the rules that you could only have one from Defenders of Berk? No, it wasn't.
No, but I said no. I said the way I approached the list. So based on that,
you said 2 seasons could have 2, and that could have been one of them. Anyway, on to mine.
Well, so it's not one of them. I can tell you that much.
Well, clearly.
Anyway,
Buffalo Lord Soldier. Okay, so I know I said the Hickstrid, I kept it to 1, but this was Hickstrid, quote unquote, but this was before like the whole canon thing, so that's where I digress there. But this one was, despite the Hickstrid, was also a really, really good episode for the fact of it showed that Vigo's willing to go down paths that other villains haven't, by sacrificing his own men using the Scourge of Odin to lure in other, the people that are annoying him, and then to help him track down dragons that he couldn't find. It also has a great score. Like the stand-up between Hiccup and Vigo when he's looking down at him, and you have just the drums in there on a beat. Like, we haven't done a music episode yet. I keep wanting to do a music episode because I'm the most musically inclined of the three here. Just like Wolf is the biggest weeb. I'm sorry.
What the hell?
It just came up in my mind and I had to say it. But so I'm the one who pays attention to the music most, I think, out of us three, and so that's what really made it for me on this one. I know we have a singing episode, but that's just like individual moments, and it's not really a score. I like the scores more than anything else, and the score of this episode is really, really good. So that's what I can say about that.
Okay, interesting choice. And a good one. I like that episode too.
For me, Have Dragon Will Travel Parts 1 and 2. The show didn't have to bring back Heather. They did. And I know I've not been, my thoughts and feelings on Heather before she was brought back in Race to the Edge. I don't think she was the best character in Defenders of Berk or Riders of Berk. I forget which one. It was Riders. Shows how much I thought of her at the time. Don't even remember when she appeared exactly. But bringing her back, I think the show did some great work with her as far as character development goes, and really turned her around for me and made her a really enjoyable character for me personally. So I have to give the show credit and praise for bringing her back in this episode at the very least, and saying and talking about how as I said, they gave her some great character development and really made her her own character that feels like she fits and belongs within this world. Mm-hmm. More so than what she already did. So that's why it's on the list.
Okay. Another good one. So we reach the top 3 people. So let's do this. Number 3.
Number 3.
The Longest Day, Race to Fall.
Mine is Team Astrid, Season 2 of Race to the Edge, Episode 1.
And mine is Defenders of Berk, Episode 15, A Tale of Two Dragons.
I was sure Wolf was going to find one, but hey, maybe...
Keep waiting.
Okay, so anyway, the Longest Day. So, unlike Enemy, I don't have anything to add to what Rush said, so I'll just keep this short. I like seeing the writers with each one of their quirks during that time, especially Astrid. Astrid kind of steals those scenes. She's hilarious in this one. I love the fact that we get another Hiccup and Toothless solo adventure, and a pretty cool solo adventure. So that's always cool in my book. And talk with Stoic on Berk, where Stoic does kind of give him lessons about life and about being chief. Like you don't go ahead looking for battles. The battles come for you, and you need to, I like this. I like all of this episode was just a fun ride, filled with action, everything. Number 3.
All right. For me, Team Astrid. This was the first Astrid-centric episode we got in Race to the Edge, if I remember correctly, and right, Race to the Edge first.
Yeah, in terms of Race to the first one that actually focused on her.
Right.
Yeah, majorly, yeah.
More majorly, yeah. So, this one I really liked it because, like I said, it focused on Astrid, and it's not just a oh, she's the love interest to Hiccup, blah blah blah. She's overly angry. Because let's say in Fright of Passage, where she was just angry trying to fix something, but Hiccup helps her. And so while it's somewhat of an Astrid-centric episode there, it's all about her anger issues or her past. This one is about her insecurities, which is like a huge thing for Astrid, because nobody ever. The only time people thought about that was for like fan fictions, right? But this one is where you actually see it on screen, and it was a very, very strong moment to have Astrid be afraid of something that wasn't family related. Well, it was family related. It wasn't like it wasn't a grudge that she was also angry or scared about, like in Fright of Passage, as I said. So this one, I really like it because it was an Astrid-centric episode that focused on a character who is generally seen as strong and annoyed all the time, given how many times she says "ugh."
Also, I still say we heard about her parents, we didn't see her parents, but it is a great episode. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Mega Boobit Berta should see the light of day on the screen. I'm just saying.
We don't know if that's her parents or not.
Well, let me that it is canon. Unless Dean comes out and it's not, and then I'll be very sad. But hey, I'll live.
It's headcanon until then. Anyway, Wolf, what was yours again?
A Tale of Two Dragons.
Right.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. World building is something I enjoy, and this has it in spades because the dragon root. What an interesting idea that I don't think anyone had thought of something like this until the show came out with it. Now, personally, my headcanon for the dragon root is very different from the way Race to the Edge took it. But at the same time, I still really enjoy the idea of the dragon root, and it has to be on my list. Not only that, we get an Astrid and Snotlout-centric episode that focuses on them and is focused on them building up a relationship with one another in terms of being friends and getting to understand and know one another better. First time the show's done that, and the show hasn't really done anything majorly like that since. So has to be on the list for those two reasons alone.
Okay, so good choices. We have reached number 2.
Number 2.
Triple Cross, Race to the Edge 6.
The Night and the Fury, Defenders of Berk, Episode 3.
And mine is Riders of Berk, Episode 16, Defiant One.
It's off by one.
Okay.
What is my number 1 if that's number 2?
Yeah, that actually. Okay, we'll find out soon. Anyway, Triple Cross. Again, one of those episodes that Wolf chose before, so I don't really have much to add because what he said, it is a good outing for Vigo, who is one of my favorite characters to come out of the show. So it was great to see that he actually, if he had to go, if he had to went out, he went out like a badass, and I appreciate all that. I mean, how many characters can you say went out charging with a fire sword while arrows are being stuck in its back with a lightning shooting dragon? I mean, how many character deaths are like that? How many? Not a lot.
According to Wikipedia, 52.
Okay,
I'm just kidding.
I'm sure Vigo did it better. How am I with you now? But anyway, so that's one. Second of all, it is always interesting to see Hiccup and Vigo interact and talk and either fight or actually walking together. And also, again, for just I like Johan as a villain here, because basically Hiccup Vigo's plan is to trick him into thinking that Vigo is still on his side, and then he comes out with this line of, "I've spent years snooping around Stuik the Vast. You think I can't point out a liar It's not the exact line, but you know what I mean. It's a great moment as well. And if I may bring back that essay I mentioned earlier in this episode, I chose that episode as well. So yeah, I kind of went all over it. Just a fantastic episode. I love it, and you should love it too.
Fair enough. By the way, I didn't mention this when Wolf mentioned it, Triple Cross, but it was going to be my number one, but I put it out, and I don't know why I didn't add it to my list. I did really like it. But on to mine, Night in the Fury. This one is great in both story, character moments, and just humor altogether. So we get Dagger back. This is his second appearance, if we're being honest. And he has been on the Dragon Island for an undetermined amount of time, and just how he's acting, he's become more deranged. He finds Hiccup, and their character moments are great, just because Hiccup is so he's scared, but he's also still even more sarcastic around him, and Dagger can't even tell. And then they just keep finding more and more of the Dragon Riders there, and it just keeps getting funnier and funnier. And it's also still great because we get to see how the riders handle themselves without the dragons, which, granted, that doesn't really happen much again, at least a Force without the dragons. We see him all the time because, hey, plot device, let's just have Hiccup lose Toothless for some reason. But we get to see the shield turn into a crossbow. It's the first appearance of the shield. We get a reference to something that they actually use later, Heather having the shield. That was actually really funny how they brought that back up. And then we get Dagger finally finding out that they are, that Hiccup is friends with the dragons. So we get the setup to what will be Dagger's main motivation for the rest of this season, and then 2 more seasons of Race to the Edge. So it's a great setup.
Yeah, another great choice, by the way.
Thank you. So, Wolf, Defiant One.
Defiant One, you've already heard. No, not at all. You both definitely didn't ask where it was on my list multiple times. So here we are. You've already heard HC and Rush both talk about it, so not much more I can say here.
One, I didn't choose it, but 2, I did think it will be in your top 3.
It was brought up by you at least anyways. But yeah, It's already been talked about at least a little bit. So some great development from Snotlout here. A great line from Snotlout. Rush has already mentioned it. It's not the leg, it's everything attached to it. Overall, a really great character episode for Snotlout, and what really, I think, set the show apart in terms of what we were going to get from it. And I think this, if anything, really helped people to nail down Snotlout's character for fan fiction as well, because before this, I don't think many people wrote Snotlout like this. After this episode, I firmly believe, this episode did change the fanfiction scene somewhat for How to Train Your Dragon, because you started seeing more people look at Snotlout in a much different way. So, have to give the show credit for this episode. Has to be on the list.
Okay, so we only have one spot left. Do you want to do honorable mentions now, or wait until after that? Sure. Okay, so let's quickly go over honorable mentions. I'll just quickly say mine. So because I have one for the season, so I'll just run through this. So for riders, Portrait of Hiccup as a buff young man. Pretty much, I brought this up before that this is pretty much a one-to-one, almost one-to-one adaptation from the books, and one of the reasons I like the books, the book itself is one of why I like this episode in terms of Hiccup's character. So, Defenders of Fury. Rush talked about it. He pointed out everything. Moving on. Race to the Edge 1, crushing it. It's called Crusher. Do I need to say anything more? So Race to the Edge 2, Team Astrid. Again, Rush said it, moving on. Race to the Edge 3, Tone Dead. Wolf talked about it, but I will say that it did help me win an argument with a friend. Can I tangent for a story here? It will be quick.
Fine.
Okay. So my best friend kind of listened to it where I ranted about one fan fiction, and in order to piss me off, she actually found a fan art of Hiccup as the Phantom of the Opera and Elsa as the girl from that movie. And I cursed her out so much because of it. But then she told me, but see, you need to remember, Hiccup can sing. And then I told her, hold my beer, and I showed her that episode, and ever since then, she will never argue with me again. So there you go. That episode earned the spot because of that. So, Race to the Edge 4, not loud. Just a fun episode. That's all I have to say. Race to the Edge 5, living on a decent opener, and for Race to the Edge 6, in plain sight. These are my runner-ups. You guys can go.
I did not pick that many, if any. I mean, I already mentioned all of the ones that were my honorable mentions have already been chosen. Because, like, if I'm being honest, they're all not loud. That one I think is another great Snot Loud episode because, you know, at the very end, he's like, he just doesn't let his dad define him anymore, which is great because he's been letting him. We notice they specifically focus on him listening to his dad in so many episodes, even in the previous seasons, like Riders and Defenders of Berk. So that's why I really like Not Loud. But that's all I got to say about any others.
Okay. Wolf, what about your runner-up?
I only picked 5 honorable mentions. One of which is from Race to the Edge Season 3. I didn't have a episode from Race to the Edge Season 3 on my list, so Race to the Edge Season 3, Episode 12, Last Auction Heroes. Some great back and forth between Snarlet and Gobber, and I just really enjoyed this episode. I mean, you also get to see Belch, if I'm not mistaken, as well. His first time appearance in the show. But
it's Grump.
Grump, sorry.
How could you mistake him?
Mm-hmm. Very important character to all of Dragons.
I love Grump.
But yeah, some great back. I mostly picked this because of the back and forth between Snarl and Gobber. Really enjoyable. Next would be Race to the Edge Season 5, Episode 5, A Matter of Perspective. I picked this one just because I have to point out the Guardians are some great and amazing dragon design, and the animation for them was just amazing to see from the show. I have to point that out. I have to give the show credit for that. Next would be one Rush picked, Race to the Edge Season 4, Episode 11, Blindsided. I'm not picking it for the Hickstrid. I'm picking it because this is some great stuff from Astrid concerning her character. Some really enjoyable stuff. No complaints here. Number 4 for my honorable mentions would be Race to the Edge Season 3, Episode 11, Family on the Edge. Some great stuff here from Dagger, where his redemption arc is concerned, and some really enjoyable stuff interaction-wise between him and Heather. And finally, as a little bit of a fun pick for me, something that I really enjoyed and I've continued to enjoy, I think it was the Defenders of Berk, episode 10 or 11. I'm not sure. I think it was episode 10, though. A View to a Skrill, parts 1 and 2. When Snotlout gets struck by lightning, hearing his famous Snotlout, oi, Snotlout, oi, 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 in basically reverse speak is just too funny not to laugh at.
We also get my favorite part of that is Hiccup's exasperated. How many times has this kid been struck by lightning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just overall a fun episode. Hearing Snotlout lightning speak is just probably If not the best funny thing the show's come up with, definitely top of that list. So have to give credit to that and mention it
Um,
somehow somewhere.
mhm. Okay, so if we're done with honorable mentions, number one.
Number
Crash.
one.
He's quickly
Okay,
sorting out his list and figuring out what his number one is.
so
No,
number
I
one.
was actually just yawning, trying to keep it off mic. That's all.
Fair.
So number one, A Time to Skrill, Race to the Edge 2.
Mine is Race to the Edge, Season 2, Episodes 12 and 13, Maces and Talons.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say A Time to Skrill, and I'm like, no. No. Anyway, Wolf.
Mine is Riders of Berk, Episode 2, Viking for Hire.
Okay, so A Time to Skrill. So I just want to point out that as opposed to the previous list, you guys didn't figure this out. You were, I'm not predictable for the most part.
Which one did you say it was again? Repeat the episode
Time
name.
to Skrill.
Time to Skrill.
Yeah.
Okay.
From Race to the Edge 2. Anyway, I seem to recall calling it the Mad Max Fury Road of How to Train a Dragon, and watching it again for this list, I can see why this episode just doesn't let up. Like it has a bit of talking, and in continuation to what Wolf just said about another episode with Snarl and the Skrill. Snarl's comedy in this is great after Spite Out is being hit by the Skrill's lighting, and it just translates him all wrong. And by the end of that, Spite Out is like, "Yeah, I'm going to show you how right you were, but with the things you translated before." And other than that, again, there are talking. There is a plot, but it doesn't stop moving, and the action is so great with this. All the chases, the chases to the sky, and all Toothless is still being hurt. Hiccup and Toothless are being targeted by the Skrill personally because it has a vendetta against them after they trapped them back in Defenders. I think it was Defenders. I'm not sure. Afterward, yeah. So they tried the same strategy, it doesn't fall for it. Hiccup thinks of another risky situation, which is letting the Skrill being caught by the hunters, which works against him. But they still manage to save the Skrill, and by the end of the day, the Skrill does forgive them. Just an all-around great episode. Again, it has tons of action. It's dramatic at points. It is really funny. Just this is one episode that has everything, and yeah, I can just put this episode on. No need for any other season, for any other episode to really give it any content. So I can just sit back and enjoy it, and enjoy watching it. And I love this episode so much.
Okay. For me, number one, Maces and Talents. I know Wolf already went over this, but I absolutely love Alfred Molina and his voice work, and so just the introduction of Vigo and his voice is just what tops the list for me. I know Wolf already went over. This was a great introduction. We have his small monologue about how the line between light and dark can often be blurred, and that when you just get
one man's good is another man's evil.
Yeah, you just get this feeling like this guy is not crazy like Dagger or Alvin. He's not outright, but there's just something off, and it's unsettling. And then you also get how he shows the man mercy, quote unquote, but really, is it mercy? And as you hear him screaming off in the distance. And again, as I said for Night of the Fury, this is just another great setup for basically the rest of the whole series of who he is and what he does. Even in the end of Triple Cross, the line between light and dark is blurred. Does he actually turn to good? Would Hiccup have assumed he was good? The line's blurred just because he sacrifices himself. It's all just caught up in this one amazing monologue that just introduces this character so well. And that's only part of the episode. Like, the rest of it's great too. Again, as Wolf said, Hiccup gets beaten. His scream at the end of this season, the episode, it just sums it all perfectly. So, all in all, a great two-parter and a great episode.
Agreed. And moving on into mine, Viking for Hire. I've talked about it before. I enjoy Mildew's character. I think Mildew was also a really good and enjoyable villain. And I think Riders of Berk really tied itself a lot to Mildew's character arc in terms of just because he was very much not the main focus of the season, but very much a main background focus of the season. And that's because Riders of Berk was very much tied to the idea of adopting the dragons into the Vikings' ways of life and culture. And I picked Viking for Hire because I think it's the best example of what you can expect from Mildew's character. And that is someone who makes a plan, said plan might work, said plan might also fail, but it's very much you're going to see him consistently become more and more targetive of Hiccup and Toothless because he becomes more and more revenge focused towards them. And I pick it simply because of that. And, we get the side benefit of fun stuff from Gobber. So there's that too.
Okay. So overall, say great choices from some of you. Some of them I didn't expect, but hey, that's the fun of making stuff like this. You may never know your co-host may pick.
I also picked it just because HC hates Mildew.
Well, that has nothing to do with it. Has something to do with me and my opinion of the character. But hey,
as I said, this list may not be a top 10 for me, but it's definitely a top something.
Hey, just because they're not killer order, but there's three favorite episodes, I guess you could say.
True.
So my over everything we mentioned honorable mentions. We brought up all the numbers. I think that's it. Anything you say before we close this?
Nope.
DreamWorks Dragons, the series, is a good series. Go watch it if you haven't at this point.
Although if you doing, I mean, we pretty much spoiled the entire thing when each season came out. So that's bad. That's bad planning. But anyway, that's been all for this episode of the favorite DreamWorks Dragons episode from any season. Well, you want to share it with us? You can do this on the comment section below. You can tell us on Tumblr, where we're Berkcast team, on Twitter, we're Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and you can find all of us on the How to Train a Dragon Valhalla Discord server. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Rush.
And I've been Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.